Hello and welcome. Today is the 27th day of July 2017. My name is Derek. Let's go over Bitcoin on multiple time frames because the daily, 4-hour, and hourly charts paint an interesting picture. But before I do, I want to go over a few different things. People ask often about this calculator. It's a program in which I've made. I put it on the taskbar for an easy click, and I put my numbers in, and it's easy for me to just access, very easy. And if you're interested, all I can really state for now is it's just really this simple formula, and it's high divided by low to the exponent of the fib percentages. So the ones that I use are these four numbers that you see. As if I do an example of such, you will see that with the upside and the downside. So there's the 38.2, 61.8, 23.6, 76.4, and the up and the down. These are the only six that I really care too much about, but these are, or this is how it is calculated. Continuing on, I have been asked about Steemit, and I gave it a shot, but I believe time is money, and quite frankly, this does not seem to have really any upside potential. For if I'm putting 5 hours in a week, that's going to bring back 3 to 4. That is, even if I get like triple, 4, 5, 6, 7 times higher, that still isn't really worth putting the time in when I could be using this really to do other things. So let's move on, because people have asked about even like premium services, and I really wish that I could, because quite frankly, this is the idea of how I wanted to do it, is within Steemit, where I can just post really quickly and just throw in video clips by pasting if I need to, but more importantly, easily put photos in and be able to type a paragraph, 2, 3 paragraphs relatively quickly, with the option, of course, of larger ones like 8, 9, 12 paragraphs. So its setup is the exact idea for what I wanted, which would be really fun to do, but unfortunately it's really not available to be done, because if I look at a premium web page, and I've been asked about this, and I've thought a lot about this, but I realized the cost would be $600 to $1,200 a year. It really costs nothing to get a domain name and have it hosted on a month-to-month basis. That's like pretty much so easy to just speculate and do. But to have it set up, I would need to have someone actually originally make the design, and that's going to cost pretty much the $600 to $1,200, where they put what they need to set it up so that you can automatically put a subscription in, which would obviously be Bitcoin, cryptocurrency related. But I would be putting some decent time into it. I would think 3 hours or so a day on average. And that would mean I would have to get some decent amount of subscriptions. And I don't think that, given 250, 300 views with YouTube, how I would probably get that. So when I look at risk reward cost management basis, something I've been into this type of math since I was in like grade 6. So I really think, with the experience of my knowledge of such, that it would really be a poor decision. Now, as far as the YouTube is concerned, I've calculated I average about 30 minutes per day. At least that's what the last 3 weeks, what the average number is. And as far as calculating how long it takes when I make a video, I think it's safe for me to state that it's around a 3-to-2 ratio. For every 2 minutes I record, it's 3 minutes of my time. So for 15 minutes of other time and getting it set up, pausing the tape, and then getting some stuff, and then unpausing it like I do so often, and so on and so forth. So at 45 minutes a day, the ad revenue works out to about $3 with about 300 people. So I guess it works out to $1 per viewer, or 1 penny per viewer. for so many videos, which is what, 2.5, I think I would average per day. I didn't calculate that number. But anyway, it works out to like $4.50 an hour, which is extremely low. But you know what, though? I look at upside potential. So in Steemit, I'm thinking if I do a bit better, you know what, it's really still not worth it. But I don't see that to be the case with YouTube, because I realize if I can get like 1,000, 2,000 viewers on a constant basis, I could probably make it much worth doing, which is the reason why I keep doing it. So when you hear people saying, we need your support for this to keep going, yeah, I'd have to say the same thing, but it's still working at the case, because well, I would have been I'm surprised right now that it's only about 250, 300, given what I would have thought back, say, in early April. I would have figured I would be getting 1,000 to 2,000 views by now. But the numbers are how they are. So I guess as long as it stabilizes around this, I probably will keep doing these videos. But it's unfortunate that I'm not able to put any type of premium content available. All right then, so let's take a look at 3 different time frames on the Bitcoin chart, because again, it paints a very beautiful picture. I've talked about the failed breakdown fast move. It had to move up to previous resistance. It's pulled back, and when we look at the low, the number's in at 2400.00. That's the exact number that I was talking about. It's now rallied up to 2574. So the rally isn't that much. Yes, it's 177 basis points, but we already know 6% moves is really very, very small within this market. And it's also found support within this 18 average. So this move that's coming into play, we can see how it's going through its correction, and so many times in the past we can see in here it goes within it and then spends some time here, and then it lifts off, spends some time in this band here, lifts off, and I can even just scroll back, and so many other times as it does such, we could see a little bit of time in the band in here, a little bit here, back at this point. It's been this was an interesting point in the later part of 2016, because it was bullish, but it wasn't making any major breakouts. Sort of like what the stock market's been doing, where it's just wearing its way up, but with very little fast moves and with very little major price corrections. But again, every single time it came back down the band, it was always the cheapest times to be a buyer. And it's always, to me, better to be a buyer when the price action is in a rising 18 average band and you're in it, than when you are over it. There's obviously those exceptions, especially when you are leaving the 18 average band. Like in here, you're leaving it, and then yeah, it worked out to buy in this point, say at 2,000, but the more it goes up, it becomes very difficult, because it's awaiting a move back within it. And even though it worked out to buy at 2,000, you were still able to buy at 1,900 on this correctionary phase, or you still could have got in at that 2,000 price. I don't like chasing markets that are well extended from the 18 average. I would rather wait till it's in it, maybe well below it, aka fishing for a bottom, but not when it's well overextended. Let's move this on to the 4-hour chart, because within such, it's really interesting how this has played out, because I think, like I say, I'm this big know-it-all everything, and I'm not, of course, and I don't really say that, but I was assuming that because of this move, it was probably going to have further downside action, and that was the case, and it would probably go to 2,400, and that was exactly the case, because this is where previous resistance was. But okay, it was a little bit 2456, but I realized here, okay, that's normal. and back up to this band. That's fine. That's why I sold at 25.80 and bought back at 25, because I figured, okay, we can still got room for that 24 move. But then this red candle happened down to a low of 24.24. And then rallies back up here. And this is what really confused me, because I'm thinking, wait a second here. I thought it would have had a decent lower low to it. And I mean, noticeable, but it wasn't to that point. But right now it's worked out to really the first area I would expect it to go to. It's up to this declining 18 average. So within it, it has to do first flatten the band out, which price stabilization will do just that. But the question then becomes, is it going to have its first attempt to have a breakout? And when you move it to the hourly time frame, we're going to be seeing it. It also means on further retracements, you're really looking for a 61.8% move at most to retrace from this low to pretty much this high area here, which will translate into around 24.75, 24.80. That is really important to hold. If it doesn't, and it holds and stays below maybe the low 24s to 24.50, 60 for more than 3 or 4 hours, 5, 6 hours even, then that's probably going to set these 2,300 variables. But that's on that if case scenario, because this thing could very easily start to flip over, and we look at multiple time frames and switch it to the 1 hour chart. Well, this is the top, and here the matching high from many a weeks before, and then all of this sideways action that was spanning from July 21st to July 25th. I was talking about how this thing had its lower volatility. We can see the 18 average is shrinking in size, and then boom, down she goes. And because this area of support had this big fall in here, that's when I realized that these resistance tests would probably not succeed at first, and sure enough, that was the case. So it really only had 2 tests in leaving the band since the fall, right in here, but it's barely found a lower low, and then again making a lower high. Same thing, barely making a lower low. Now it has made a higher high from this point, and it's attempting now to play around with these highs. Meanwhile, the reversal of trend, step 1, band flatten. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive periods of this band flattening in here. Step number 2, establish resistance. It's pretty much already been established into this area where it's moving towards. I gotta go higher than this, but this area here, roughly around 26, would be the area I'm looking for. But as it's playing through, since the 5 periods of the band flattening, there's been 6 periods since this point here where this 18 average is now barely starting to rise, and we can see green candle up, green candle up, green candle up, and then before this current one, a down move back to the 18 average of rising highs, the rising such, and now it's breaking through, and it's already getting past this key resistance. The buyers are looking right now as if they are ready to take control of this market. So this is on the 1 hour looking very optimistic, and I haven't looked at these even shorter term time frames, but just looking at it, say, from a 30-minute point of view, you could almost make a case where with this situation where the 18 average is flat with a range of 24.88 and 24.50, in which you've this is going to be the established resistance. It's high enough above here where you're attempting to break, whereas going from up to here to 25.07, that's to me a lame ass attempt to break the trend if you're barely going above the 18 average of highs. But when you leave it here and make this kind of move, that's good enough for me. So here's a situation of establishing resistance on the this area, even though you kind of did here, but back to the band, and now it's breaking out. So this is a good time in this time frame to buy when it's above it. So I wouldn't do it for that much longer. And I don't usually play this way, but I do at times. But how high would I say to buy this at? Once we start to get to like here, 25.90, 95, I'm going to be starting to think, okay, now it's getting a little overextended. Maybe we might want to look to buy around 25.40 instead. I'm usually the type of person that instead of rather trying to buy now, look for just a little bit of a pullback, because that's what usually happens. Sort of like in here. Oh, it's breaking this resistance point on this period here. It's at 25.48. I mean, if you bought there, it worked. But if you put a buy order in for 25.31, that worked better. So, and the risk, of course, is I put a buy order in for, say, 25.46 or something like that. And then next thing you know, it doesn't go there. And it's maybe 30 minutes later, it's 26.30. So that is like part of the risk reward. And that's one thing I think is very important, is like an if-else thinking. If I do something this way, or if it works out this way, how's the alternate going to be? So what's better, buy now versus buy for a correction? What size of correction? Because, I mean, if you're looking for a move to 25.40, you're talking from now at 25.75. That's about a 35 basis points difference. You're only talking about a little over 1%. So is that 1% worth it based on what you're trying to do with this particular buy? You're trying to sell maybe at 20. I would be looking to sell at 27.20 if I were to in the play like this. Buy now and then sell a little bit. And we can see right now just a little bit of a correction within this 5-minute time frame. But you know what? That is extremely short term. I don't want to get into that. So I'm going to conclude this video. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.